If you'd like online business explained to you in a way that you can actually understand, go to latenightim.com/explain. It's completely free, and I made it just for you. Now, how about an episode? Episode 129. Late Night Internet Marketing. This week on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, I've got Cliff Ravenscraft in the house to tell you how you can start your very own coaching business right now in 2022. All this and more on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
The Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
You've been working for somebody else, but you want a business to run yourself. You want to know how to start and where to begin. Can you get out your comfort zone, my friend? Yes, you can do it right when it's late at night. At the end of the day, your dreams burning inside. So keep it up and you will find that you're building your business one night at a time.
And now, broadcasting late at night from a little studio in the big state of Texas, your host, Mark Mason.
Hey, how is everyone doing? I am your host, Mark Mason, and I'm very excited to have Cliff Ravenscraft in the little studio in Dallas, Texas. He's not actually in the little studio in Dallas, Texas. He's actually coming to us via Zoom. Last week, we talked about the 4 different kinds of internet businesses, and one type of business, one category of business is online services. And one of the most exciting online services today is the area of coaching. I think it's exciting because it can transform lives, and it's exciting because for those that are called to do it, it's reasonably easy to get started. It's a real business that you can start today. Now, I don't mean to say that it's an easy business. It's a serious business that takes a lot of work to be successful, but the barriers to getting into that business are approachable. Now, to tell us exactly what we need to know to start an online coaching business in 2022, I've invited Cliff Ravenscraft back to the show. You may know Cliff as the Mindset Answerman. He has a thriving and growing coaching business of his own, and he's agreed to come and share his thoughts about what you need to know about starting a coaching business in 2022. Let's hear from Cliff.
Hey, don't touch that dial. It's time for another fantastic guest on the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Okay, so thank you, Cliff. I really appreciate you being with me here today. You know, last week on the show, I talked about this idea that there are many different kinds of businesses that you can start in 2022. And since one of those was coaching, and you are one of the leading experts in training and coaching coaches. You have your own coaching business. You've been overwhelmingly successful. Heck, over the years, you've even coached me. I thought I'd come to you and talk to you a little bit about coaching. How does that sound today?
Dude, I am always excited to have a conversation with you, and anything related to coaching kind of just speaks to my heart. So let's do it.
You know, you're kind of the Steve Martin of late night internet marketing. You know, Steve Martin has hosted Saturday Night Live a dozen times. You've been on late night internet marketing, I don't know how many times. So I always get great feedback from listeners when you're here. I really appreciate you being here. So the question is simply this. Let's start off with this. When people come to you and say, hey, Cliff, I want to start a coaching business, is that a good idea in 2022 or not? Is this a good time to be thinking about starting something like a coaching business?
Well, the answer to that question is it doesn't matter what year it is and what the current environment is and what opportunities exist. The question is coaching something that you want to do? That's the first question. Then the next question is, how much of your heart is in this? Do you really have a confidence that you are a coach and that this is a path for you. And if that's the case, then I would argue 2022, 1922, 2122.
Right.
It doesn't matter. The world will always need coaches. Even a coach such as myself has a coach. That's the one thing. It's almost okay. It's almost like multi-level marketing. Everybody's got to have a coach, right?
Yeah, but that sounds negative. And I know you don't mean that. So I want to ask you to clarify that, because I know even before you were formally coaching, you've changed and actually saved lives with your coaching. And I want to be careful. I know you're joking because I know you, but I want you to talk a little bit about that since you brought it up. What is the deal with coaching? Why is it so valuable? What's the value proposition for having a coach in your life? So I am almost joking, but I really want to wake people's mind up to the idea that they really do need a coach. The metaphor and the analogy of multi-level marketing, I realize that that's a little bit out there. But more than anything, here's the situation. We all are limited. Mark, you are a limited human being. I am a limited human being. We are all limited human beings. And what I mean, the only limit, though, is that for which we have in our own mind. So, for example, if there is something that I want to achieve, I want to be able to go and do this action that I have decided. I've got a goal. I want to generate $40,000 a month in my business next year. All right. And so far, my experience is that I have generated as much as $30,000 in my business. I've hovered for the last 18 months between $25,000 to $35,000 in my business, but I want to get to 40,000. Now, the thing is I'm like, okay, I have no experience generating $40,000 in my business, which means that I've not had any experience in the kind of actions and activities that get those kind of results, because actions always equals results. And so I know what actions get me 25 to 30K consistently. So what I need is a different perspective. I need a different set of eyes. I need to talk to somebody who actually is aware of other actions that I can take that I'm not able to even think about. It's not that I'm not smart. It's just I don't have experience in that area. And oftentimes, as a coach, I can sit here and have a conversation with somebody and I'll say, what do you want to do? Well, I am desperately trying to leave this soul-sucking day job that I'm at. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, I really want to do coaching and public speaking full time. I love the business model you have, Cliff. And I'm like, great, that's wonderful. And I asked them, I said, so let me ask you this. How long do you think it'll be before you're able to leave the soul sucking day job? Well, I'd say within 3, maybe 4 years, I definitely can pull this off. And I'm like, why not 3 to 4 months? Wow.
And they said, well, because I've got everything mapped out. There's no doubt in my mind I'll be able to do this. And so what happens is right now I'm currently working on a course. It's probably going to take me at least 6 months to get the course complete. Once I have that course, then I'll begin a podcast and start building my audience. I currently have no social media presence whatsoever. But then I'll have the course after about 6 months. It'll probably take me about a year to a year and a half to be able to start generating enough sales from, my $499 course. And then I've got to figure out all this marketing funnel. I'm horrible at technology. I know nothing about email sequences, all that other stuff. So I know what it takes. I've been studying lots. I've been listening to late night internet marketing with Mark. I've been listening to Pat Flynn. I've been listening to sales copy stuff with Ray Edwards. I am totally hooked up with all the actions I need to take to do this. So I've been working on this course for the last 3 months, and in about 6 months from now, it'll be done. And I'm like, great. How much money do you need to make for you to leave your soul-sucking day job? About $5,000 would do it. $5,000 per month consistently. If I could do that for for 3 months in a row and feel consistently confident that I'm going to be able to consistently bring in $5,000 a month, I'd be able to leave my day job. And I'm like, so, okay, $5,000 divided by $499. So he's thinking the only way he's going to leave his day job to grow his audience to where that many people will buy that course month after month after month after month. And so that's why it's project. And I'm like, have you ever thought about maybe just offering a $5,000 coaching package? And where you offer yourself to that person maybe every other week for the next 6 months. And then you could use this method called, and you may or may not ask me in this conversation, the Prosperous Coach method. I could teach you here real quickly what that is, where if you were to coach potential coaching clients, give them 3 hours of full-blown coaching of everything you have to offer, and make a proposal to them after the 3rd hour of coaching. What if one person every month said yes to your $5,000 package? You're there. What if I told you could have that within 90 days? Well, I never really thought about that. Well, and then of course, I might say, so first of all, the one thing is they're down the path of, I've got to do this in an online course. They're down the path. I've got to have a podcast and social media presence. They're down the path. I have to have an email list and an email automated sales funnel sequence.
Right.
They're down that path. That, by the way, that is absolutely an incredibly powerful path, as you know, Mark. But it's not the only path. And there is a faster path that can get you the result you want outside of the soul sucking day job within 3 months instead of 3 years.
Right.
So what I do is I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. And they're like, well, the thing is, Cliff, is I spent the last, first of all, I was a pastor for 20 years of my life. Then I left that and went into corporate because I wasn't able to pay for the kids to go to college. And so I've been in corporate now for another 15 years. So I've held a corporate leadership position for the last 15 years. And, you know, I hear what you're saying, but I just don't think anybody's going to hire a brand new coach.
Right. It's self-doubt, right? Do most of the people that you talk to that are considering coaching wonder whether or not they're worthy or qualified to be a coach?
Most of those who have not already had a track record of being paid for their coaching.
Okay.
Almost all of those people have that. Once you have coached, once you have gained clients who are paying you for your coaching, it's a non-issue, because it's what you're talking about here is, do they lack the confidence that people would pay them? And what they need is the courage to ask people to pay them. And that's where I come up with this conversation. This is why coaching is so valuable. Number one, we've already given them a different perception of what's possible. You know, there's a different path you could take that could get you the results in 3 months instead of 3 years. I don't know about you, but I think if in a single conversation, I can shorten your path by, let's just say, what is that? 2 years and 9 months.
Right.
That might be a valuable conversation, right, such as the value of coaching. But then you got the whole issue with, do I have the courage to ask for this? Do I have the confidence that people will pay me? Now, for those who are getting paid as a coach, they have confidence that people will pay them. But as you may have recollection of a conversation many years ago, the question is, it's like, okay, I know they'll pay me at $150 an hour, but would they pay me at $200?
Right.
I came to the Green Room Mastermind, the mastermind group that you and I have been a part of for many years now, Mark. And I'm like, hey guys, I've been charging $150 an hour. I've been thinking about raising my rates. I'm currently booked 6 weeks in advance at this point. I don't want to add any more coaching calls to my schedule, but quite frankly, I'm still kind of not making the financial income that I desire for my business. So I'm thinking about raising my rates from $150 to $200. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm a little bit nervous about making that jump in price. And do you remember what the advice that you and the rest of the green room gave me?
My recollection is that we recommended that you double it or go to 500. I can't remember which conversation it was.
This one was the double it.
Yeah. So double it. Yeah.
I came to the group and you guys said, no, that's a terrible, do not raise your rates to 200. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was concerned. I was
right.
I didn't think you guys were going to back me. I thought you guys were going to try to help me see that I'm worth the 200. But actually when I continued to listen, you guys said, no, you need to go to 300. And within 1 hour back in the day, I wasn't able to do it. My mindset was so stuck on a price. So this is where coaching and conversations and helping you break through limitations that you've put on your mind of what you perceive to be possible is all about. By the way, today I only have one-on-one coaching package, and it generates me an average of $833 per hour. So that's where I'm currently at and that's basically one 90-minute call per month. And it's either $12,000 a year or $1,250 per month. And I'm booked solid on that today.
Yeah. And I know that if you look at, because we have these other conversations outside of this podcast where we get to talk privately about some of the success that your clients are having. I know that some of your clients are paying that money and then laughing all the way to the bank because they feel like they're getting away. They feel like they're stealing from you because all they paid was $833 an hour. Right. So It's all a matter of value. And I think that's interesting. Okay. So here I am. I'm this new prospective new coach, and I want to start a coaching business in 2022. You've convinced me that 2022 is still a great year, just like every other year, to create a coaching business. You've told me that I have some things I need to look out for, like my own limiting beliefs. I need to make sure that it's something that I'm really passionate about, that I want to do. What are the first 2 or 3 steps that you would advise me to take as a someone who just has decided that I'm passionate about coaching. I love helping people. I want to get good at this, go do it, make it happen. And I want to make it happen this year, Cliff. I want to build a real coaching business. I want to really help people. I want to do it now. What should I do?
Well, the first thing I want to do is speak to the type of people who can resonate with what I talked about. The guy who was a pastor for 20 years, left that for a better lucrative position in corporate and had great success in a leadership position in corporate for 15 years. Now he wants to create this coaching business. And he's kind of like, I don't know if anybody will hire me as a brand new coach. And so for most people that are really pursuing coaching as a business, what I have found to most of them is that they are in their mind, they think I'm a brand new coach who would hire me.
Right.
And the first thing I would say is shift your beliefs about that. You've been coaching, for example, the guy we just talked about, 35 years of coaching.
Right.
You have 35 years of coaching experience. Let me tell you, I come from a ministry background. I was a pastor for more than a decade. You do an incredible amount of coaching there. Premarital coaching, post-marital
coaching. Yes. Yeah, sure.
You do. I mean, you're working with people who are on the verge of suicide. You're dealing with parents whose children just committed suicide. I mean, you have so much experience as a coach in that 15 years of being a pastor. And then in the corporate leadership position, you've been coaching people into results-oriented actions and overcoming organizational things, relational stuff in the workplace. You have so much. And so the first thing that you need to do is get over this idea that coaching is something that you're newly entering into.
Right. Understood. I think it's a great point, and it's one that resonates with me because I was there. Am I a coach? Well, I mean, exactly for the reasons that you've described. I've been doing coaching in so many forms for 30 years, and I just haven't been sending invoices. That's the only difference.
Well, by the way, you have been paid for your coaching.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so happens to be that you have one client that you work with, and in the corporate world, as far as who's paying you, but that company has been subletting your coaching out to others.
I've been on retainer, right? I mean, I've essentially been on retainer. Yep.
Dude, I happen to know Mark Mason, and his coaching expertise has been required in certain Asian countries. It's like, listen, we need a face-to-face coach on the ground in Malaysia or Japan or wherever. And they fly you to Japan to coach people.
I love Japan.
So anyway, that's the first thing. The second thing that I would say is that you would need to, if you were looking to monetize your coaching for maybe the first time on your own,
right?
In this way, as a new business that you're launching, the next thing that I would recommend that you do is read a book that I wish I would have read more than a decade ago. Of course, I don't think it existed back then, but it exists now. So go get it. It is the book called The Prosperous Coach by Steve Chandler and Rich Litvin. This is not a book that will teach you how to coach, by the way.
Right.
There's nothing in this book about teaching you how to coach. It's just making the assumption that you are already a coach and that you coach incredibly well. If that's the case, then read this book. It will absolutely give you, I believe, the shortest path to financial success as a coach. It literally says these words: you do not need a website. You do not need a blog. You don't need a podcast. You don't need an email newsletter. You do not even need to have a single social media account on the internet. And even in 2022, without any of that, you could have an incredibly financially profitable coaching business. Now, please hear me. This book is not arguing that you should not have those things and that those things are not valuable. I have all of those things and they're incredibly valuable. Matter of fact, Rich Litvin, the co-author of this book, who actually wrote those words for the book, has a podcast, has a blog, emails me 3 days every week on his email newsletter, and has all sorts of social media and YouTube and everything else. So even though he doesn't need it, he loves it and enjoys it. But if you're one of those people who's like just the idea of doing some of this stuff, which that's not you because you're listening to late night internet marketing. But I just want you to know that in your pursuit of creating your podcast and your email newsletter and your sales funnels and all this other stuff, continue to do that. But don't wait until you got all of that built up to start generating income within the next 30 days from your coaching. And I'm talking significant income from your coaching within 30 days. If you have no social media presence, no email subscribers, if you have less than 100 email subscribers on your list and all this other stuff, you just launched your podcast and you've got 10 subscribers, keep building that. The process of getting out there, getting your name out there, letting people hear what your message is so that they can come to know, like, and trust you, all of that stuff through those means, those are all incredibly valuable. But if you want to get paid within the next 30 days for your coaching, you'll have to understand that there is a 4-step process that will instantly get you paid as a coach.
Okay, so great. So what I hear so far, step 1, unpack all your limiting beliefs around whether or not you can do this and how long it's going to take and all those things. Set aside all those assumptions. Step 2, go get Rich's book, which I personally have read. It's an easy read. It's fantastic. And you and I know from just actual experience, this method that Rich describes in the book absolutely works. In fact, I would say not only, he says you don't need a website. I would say not only is that true, but the method that Rich describes in The Prosperous Coach is more likely to bring you clients than that other stuff. It is I hate to use the phrase surefire method, but I think it's very difficult to actually do what's described in that book and not come away with coaching clients. So that's 2. And what are you going to say? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, there's this one thing. I don't think that it's in the book, but if I became close friends with Rich Litvin, and he invited me out to one of his seminars that he does on this method. And one of the exercises that he often has people go through, and I've used this several times with people that I've trained in coaching, is a 30-day no challenge. So the idea is that you connect with one person per day, every day, and you invite them to be coached. And your goal is you have 30 days to get 30 people to say no to you when you propose them. They pay you for coaching. So the thing is this process is that you give them 2 complementary experiences of your coaching. So you're literally coaching your butt off. So you're coaching, serving. And at the end of a second call, you make a proposal. Would you like to have a conversation? What it would look like for you and I to have an ongoing paid coaching relationship. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to get 30 people to say no to your proposal. Right. And the thing is I love this because if somebody says yes, dude,
right.
You just messed up. It's like, now you've got to go find one more person to bring 2 more times into a coaching experience. And the reality is that over time, the more you do this, it becomes more and more and more challenging to get everyone to say no to you.
Yeah. It's great because
the goal is to get everybody to say no to you because you want to win the challenge of getting 30 no's.
Right. It flips the script and we won't talk about this today, but a lot of problems that people have when they're doing that kind of selling, which is what you're doing at that point, technically anyway, I would argue you're doing the selling at all points. Yeah, but you're asking for the sale, right? So when you ask them to enter that relationship, the reason people don't want to do that is because they fear the rejection. But if you flip the script and you say the goal is for the rejection, then you take away all that internal resistance. And that's what I love about that construction that Rich has. Okay. So those are 2 things that I think someone can go do. Is there a third thing? Read the book. What about actually getting better at coaching? What do you tell people when they say, Cliff, I want to coach. I want to help people. I have some skills. I have I feel like I'm good, but I can, like anything else, I should be able to get better. What do coaches do that want to hone their skills? What do we do there?
Yeah. So there's a lot of different, if you ask 10 different people who teach people how to coach, you'll get 10 different answers. Some of them will overlap. You're going to hear all about certification programs. To this day, I don't have any letters associated with my name or any certifications to tell you that I'm certified to help you as a coach. It's just not something I've had any desire to pursue. And I just don't need it. However, for some people, going after a certification program, it does help them gain a little bit of confidence. And you might learn through those programs, you might learn some strategies, some techniques, some frameworks that can be very beneficial for you to use with your clients and stuff like that. So one thing I can tell you is you might want to look into a certification program. Now, with that being said, just know that I personally don't think you need it. And I haven't pursued any of them, but I think they're incredibly valuable if that's something you feel resonates with you. It's like, man, I'd really like that. So, but just don't wait until you're certified to start coaching people.
Got it. Okay.
Right. So the next one is definitely hire a coach. If you haven't hired a coach before, hire a coach. And if for no other reason, just sometimes I'm working with a coach right now, Mark, that I think I paid almost $5,800. It's New Zealand, or actually Australian dollars to US dollars.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, I paid about $6,000 for 6 months worth of coaching, and I desperately do want to experience the results that are promised from this. But I got to tell you that even I'm a little bit skeptical of whether or not this coach can help me experience what's promised. Now, I'm definitely going in with my whole heart and anticipating that, I'll transcend or end the trance of my limiting beliefs in this area. But you know what? The biggest value that I get as a coach is I get to experience how this woman coaches me.
Right.
How does she show up to the call? What does she say in her email communications before the call? What is the follow up? What does she send me after the follow up? How does she reach out and how does she communicate with me between conversations. And what are the coaching calls like, and how uniquely different is that from anything that I've ever thought to do myself? And so, one, I like to hire my own coach and see how I can grow through working with somebody else who approaches coaching from a different way than I do. The other thing is gosh, just go on YouTube and look for coaches who coach on YouTube videos.
Right.
Like literally a coach who is coaching other people. I haven't been able to get into Brene Brown. I'm sure many people have heard her name. It's just not resonating. That voice doesn't resonate with me. The message does, but just the way anyway. But she does coaching of people in YouTube videos. Rich Litvin has a YouTube channel, and almost every video on his channel is him coaching people. And so go observe people who are coaching people and just take notes. What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you want to add? Make a list of questions, all of this other stuff. So then there's a book called The Coaching Habit. Now, this is made for people who are inside a corporate or business setting, and it's about business leaders coaching their staff, their employees. But even as a coach, even though I'm not in that kind of setting, there are so many different things that he gives you different styles of questions to ask.
Yeah.
And he also helped me understand, hey, be careful and be cautious that you don't let the advice monster out. And that as a coach, you're giving tons and tons of advice, because what we want to do is help our clients discover the answers within them.
Right.
So these are a couple of different things off the top of my head. Hire a coach and be coached. Learn from that coaching experience. Go view other people who are coaching. Look at a certification program if you want to. There's lots of them out there. Read lots of coaching books like The Coaching Habit. Another book that's incredibly powerful and was to me is a book called Super Coach by Michael Neal. That one is, and these, I personally like coaching books that aren't necessarily teaching how to coach, but they're literally coaching you through the material that you're reading.
Yeah, sure.
And if you, okay, here's the one last thing that I will tell you. Words don't teach. So I have somebody who is relatively new to coaching, and she's 22 years old, just graduated college with a psychology degree. And she has no experience coaching people at all. And she's like, I want to be an in-demand, highly paid coach. That's my desire. Great. Now I'm going to tell you, she's not going to go out and be an in-demand, highly desirable paid coach in 3 months. That's just not going to happen. And so what happens here in this scenario, in this situation, you got somebody who is just now entering into adult life. Right. And we get into conversations, and she goes, I really am struggling because my mom calls and when are you going to make money at this? You know, and I get so frustrated. I get so angry, and I get so this and blah, blah, blah. And I get so discouraged and disheartened and stuff like that. And I said, well, tell me how and so she's sharing all of this stuff on the personal side. And then I have a conversation. I have a conversation with her. Hey, did you coach? Did you invite some people? Oh yeah, I had a coaching call last month. And I said, how'd that go? Well, it was going really well. The first call, they said this, they were going to do these actions and stuff like that. And during the second call, I asked how that went. And they said, you know, it's like she came up with all sorts of limiting beliefs and stuff like that. And then and she said she kind of just got discouraged by it and kind of just lost her momentum. And I'm like, sounds like somebody I know.
Right.
So what I came away with is the fact is oftentimes we think that, and there's this pressure. It's like, Cliff, can you give me a bunch of frameworks to teach people? And I'm like, well, how about I give you a couple of frameworks that I can teach you? Let me coach you on how to transform the way you experience life. And as you learn these skills for transforming your own life, how about you authentically and transparently teach what you're experiencing and what you're learning and what you're struggling with, how you're overcoming it. And it's through your experience and it's through your stories that you teach and transform others. not through the words.
Right.
So I can actually I could go to a Michael Hyatt best year ever thing and buy his book and his planners and all this other stuff. But if I never use that, I could get up on a stage and read, I could memorize Michael Hyatt's scripts for how to plan and organize your life with these planners. But if I'm not doing it, sometimes people get imposter syndrome, Mark, because they're actually being imposters.
Right.
So I don't encourage everyone to get over their imposter syndrome. If all of a sudden you feel imposter syndrome because you're being an imposter, then live with the weight of that imposter syndrome and stop being an imposter. And how do you stop being an imposter? It's where you're actually living the stuff that you're teaching.
Awesome. I love that. That's perfect. Well, thank you, Cliff. So I think, it's clear to me that people who think they might want to be a coach, probably after listening to this, have a clear idea that that's something they can achieve. They've got an idea of how to get started doing that. But I've kind of buried the lead here because with Cliff Ravenscraft, there's always more. So tell me, if I'm interested in learning more about coaching and hearing more about what you have to say about coaching, where do I find you, Cliff?
Sure. So because you're listening to a podcast, I want to actually tell you a couple of different podcasts that you might want to check out. First is Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching. I think there's only 11 or 12 episodes of this podcast. And I basically began to master this skill of the Prosperous Coach method for creating clients that's in the Prosperous Coach book that I mentioned. And so I can tell you right now, if you listen to all of those episodes, if you're not in a if you're not in a podcast directory right now where you just look for Cliff's Notes on Profitable Coaching, you can go to notesoncoaching.com and it'll take you to there and you can choose to subscribe. Now, anybody who is a coach and you have a coaching business, you probably heard of group coaching, but I want to encourage you also to consider down the road, or at least some point down the road, paid mastermind groups. Paid mastermind groups. Mark, I started the Next Level Mastermind. I have an AM group and the PM group. It is something that I do. I have two different groups of up to 10 people per session, per group. And I facilitate those meetings once a week, every week for 90 minutes. That's 3 hours a week of facilitating Zoom calls. And it's just been over 4 years and I'm almost over $1 million in revenue from just that one stream of income. I would tell you that practically anyone who is a coach could actually see significant scaling of their revenue generation from their coaching through paid mastermind groups. And Tony Robbins says this. He says, the quality of your life will be determined by the expectations of your peer group. And because of that phrase, which, by the way, his mentor was Jim Rohn, and he says, the quality of your life will be determined by the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right.
So, but with this whole, the quality of your life will be determined by the expectations of your peer group. That one really stuck. It's like, man, sometimes I go to my friends and I say, hey guys, I'm really thinking about giving this up. It's just not worth it. And it's like, yeah, Cliff, you're probably right. Well, if that's what my peer group says, then it's time to upgrade my peer group. So I say all of that. Check out the Upgrade Your Peer Group podcast. You can just search for that in your favorite podcast directory. And also online at upgradeyourpeergroup.com. And then if you want to be coached yourself to really stretch what you think is possible, your perceptions of how life ought to be, I encourage you to check out a podcast that should be called Mindset Answerman, but it's actually called The Cliff Ravenscraft Show. And you can find that in your favorite directory or cliffravenscraftshow.com.
Awesome, sir. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing and abundant day.
I definitely will. Thank you. You do the same, and same to everyone listening.
I hope that you enjoyed that as much as I did, because I always love having Cliff on the show. In fact, for those of you that aren't familiar with this, after the rollout at the end of the show, after the outro, I always share some additional thoughts about random stuff. And that's kind of the post-show commentary. And I've been doing this for years. So if you've never noticed that, let the music play out and then I'll come back on. Now you know. For those of you that didn't know, now you know. This week, I let Cliff stick around for that. I don't think I've ever done that before. So if you're interested in hearing some more comments from Cliff on coaching, stick around. We'll be talking about some more stuff at the end of the show. Ciao.
You can do it right when it's late at night.
You've been listening to the Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast.
Be sure to visit LNIM229.com today to leave feedback for Mark. Download special bonus content, access the show notes, and more. See you there.
Until then, go and make some great progress on your internet business, one night at a time.
Business one night at a time.
One of my favorite things that is flipping the script. In the old days, I never called them discovery calls, but it's kind of like, fill out an application. Let's jump on a call. You're thinking about joining the Next Level Mastermind. Great. Let me try to tell you some of the things about the mastermind group that'll get you really excited. And then let me give you the ability to ask me questions. And then by the end of that 30-minute call, you can determine whether or not I or my mastermind group offering is worthy of your investment. So
Right.
You're auditioning me, right? So one of the things that I love about this Prosperous Coach method is that it completely flips the script, that I don't do discovery calls where people are auditioning me to see if I'm worthy of their investment. I'm at the place now where I've coached enough people and I know how much of me goes into their success. I'm really invested in them. And I carry a lot of emotional weight for some individuals because some people need a little bit of energy boost. It's kind of like a car with jumper cables. That's literally hooking up jumper cables from me to them, seeing if I can shock their battery back to life. And so I got to the place where, Mark, it's like I always audition potential clients, and I sometimes I will get on a call and we'll have a conversation about whether or not they're ready to join the Next Level Mastermind. But I go into it now where it's like, listen, I don't care how much money you're willing to put in my bank account. I want to ask you enough questions. I'll answer questions you have about my program, but I want to ask you enough questions so I feel confident that you're worthy of my investment, regardless of how much money you're willing to put in my bank account.
What an awesome spot to be in, that you're at a point with your coaching where your biggest concern is making sure that you have the right clients. You're not willing to take just any client.
The other thing is that Rich Litvin also, he's such a powerful coach, and so many insights I've gotten from him. One is challenge the yes. So oftentimes it's like, try to get them to say yes. And then, dude, once you got them, it's like, So the other day I had a guy who says, Cliff, I said to him, so what do you think? Are you ready to join the Next Level Mastermind? Are you ready to make this 1 year commitment at this level? He goes, gosh, Cliff, I got to tell you, if my gut says that I'm an idiot if I don't do this, that like my gut tells me I should say yes right here on the spot. But the logical side of my brain tells me that I should sleep on this. I said, I tell you what. Or he says, the logical side of my brain says I should sleep on this overnight. And I said, listen, take 2 nights to sleep on this. Here's my text number. And so I texted him from my phone. Did you get that? Yes. Okay, great. It was Tuesday when we talked. On Friday at noon Eastern time, that's your deadline to let me know if you're in or not. Here's what I need you to text me though. If you are 99.9% certain that this is the right decision for you, then I need you to text me and say, Cliff, thanks for the opportunity, but I'm a no for now.
It completely eliminates any feeling that person is being sold, because you're basically telling them, hey, I don't need your business. The only way we're going to do this is if it's right for you, the customer, the client. And I that's an amazing empowerment that you give that person when you take that approach, because they only have to worry about themselves then. They don't need to worry about whether or not they're being played or, you know, whether you've got some ulterior motive or agenda. And that's an amazingly strong position for you to be in. I love that.
Yeah. I just want to say, I have had people say no for now. And then they came back, you know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks later. And they're like, dude, okay, I'm all in now. If you still have me, I'm all in. And it's like, okay, let's do it.
Late night internet marketing.
Hey, it's Mark again. I wanted to tell you one more time about this absolutely free resource that I have for helping people who are trying to get the big picture for internet marketing, actually get started and understand what all their choices are. If that's not you, there's no more content. You can skip to the end. But if you're someone who came to this podcast because you're searching for how to get started online and you just can't cut through all the noise, I get it. That was me in 2007 when I was trying to get started. There were so many people throwing offers at me that I really couldn't even understand what all the different business models were. I couldn't understand how money moved around on the internet. And I couldn't really get a grip on what direction I wanted to go in so I could figure out how to move forward. I've created a free video resource for you just for that purpose at latenightim.com/explain. In several short videos, I just explained to you what internet marketing is all about and what online business is all about and the different options that you have for starting an online business. There's nothing to buy there. You just sign up for access and you get the videos just like that. So if that's interesting to you, or if you know someone who's in a same situation, send them that link, latenightim.com/explain, and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what people are thinking that are in the exact same position that I was in more than a decade ago in 2007. In some ways, it seems like yesterday. And in some ways, it seems like an entire lifetime ago. Again, that's latenightim.com/explain.
Late night internet marketing.